Welcome to News 24's Bafana Bathathe. My name is Tashreeq Vardien, and this is your corner, your 18th area to score and know everything there is about Bafana Bafana up in North America for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Yes, we know it's been a few days to recover after South Africa's World Cup opening defeat to co-host Mexico. But like any other South African, when our backs are against the wall, this is where we rise highest and show our true potential. And that is hopefully the case on this eve ahead of Bafana's Matchday 2 encounter against Czechia. On the ground in Atlanta, where Bafana Bafana will play against Czechia on Thursday evening, where the disappointment has faded. We now cross over to News 24 senior football writer Njabulo Ngidi, who's covering Bafana's World Cup journey firsthand. Jabs, good morning, good afternoon. How are you feeling?
Still morning, yeah. Slightly more positive than I was when I left. The conditions are... when we left Mexico, the expectation was that it's going to be hot. It's been hot for the most part of the week, and that was a big talking point. But when we arrived there, it was like raining and it's cold. And these are conditions that are expected to be throughout the week. And there's even like a flood alert. So the roof is going to be closed at the stadium, which means that the conditions allow for a good game of football because the heat factor is not going to be there, which is great for us.
Yeah. Local time, what time is kickoff? So that's about 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah, it's at noon. It would have been hell if they played at 12 noon with the Atlanta sun basking in all its glory. Yeah. So this is great for Bafana. It doesn't stop those what they call them hydration breaks, but essentially the commercials. We're still going to have 4 quarters regardless of that the condition doesn't need any. Yeah. It doesn't need any stoppages.
And given that the core of the Bafana team, is South African-based players, and given that the last chunk of our domestic season is usually played in winter, and our first chunk is usually played towards, I guess, summer and early spring. Do you think tomorrow's weather will only aid Bafana and benefit? Because if I look at the weather, it's 27 degrees, humidity is 86%, but we have 75% chance of precipitation with a high knots of 18 kilometers winds. So conditions serves perfectly for any footballer. You don't want it to be too hot, but you also don't want it to be too cold, that it's disturbing play. But how do you see these things from a conditions point of view planning out?
I think it's perfect for Bafana. It's a perfect... everything is centered around Bafana putting on a good performance and the real Bafana showing up. I think the weather conditions is going to allow them to use their speed, play with that fluidity that we know them well. The ball is going to move a bit faster because they've closed the roof and they've sort of at the stadium. So it's not going to be thick and heavy, and they've had like lights. They've put it under lights, the grass, because for the World Cup, this is the first time that the stadium has had grass. It used to only had a synthetic pitch for NFL. And when I was having a chat with Bradley Cannell, who's been here a couple of times in his stint as coach at New York Red Bulls and even Philadelphia, he says that the grass is perfect for how we play because the ball is going to move a bit faster because it tends to stick a bit with the artificial pitch. So I think there's no reason to complain in terms of everything around this game. And there's also a very strong Atlanta, the South African population in Atlanta. And I think Bafana is probably going to get its best support here because of that. SAFA has been on an intense drive, and even Brand South Africa has been on an intense drive to get South Africans to come and show up in a game where really they'll need everything to ensure that they get a positive result against Czechia.
That's the most important thing. If we look at obviously the table, it's looking bleak, but there's some positivity if we look at tomorrow evening's game as well as the last game next weekend, a week from today. Czechia comes in for Bafana at the right time. We left all the demons, the mistakes, the errors that happened in Mexico before we return back to that very playground in the next couple of days. But focusing on Czechia and we look at the formation, we look at the selection, we look at everything involved in that particular game against Mexico, what is something that Bruce cannot afford to do again?
I think that the big thing is the defense. Czechia is very, when it comes to set pieces, they are very good. It's a key part of their game. You look at even the goal that they scored against Korea from like a long throw in. So Bafana can't really allow to be sloppy at the back and concede needless fouls in and around the box.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that Bruce has emphasized on, to make sure that they seriously work on and ensure that they improve on. Because, from the AFCON and even bits in terms of the game against Mexico, when you look at how we considered the goal, being stretched and then aerially allowing Jimenez to just rise and punish us. Set pieces has not been our best thing in terms of what we've done. So the core focus for the team this week has been to sort of improve on how we do aerially in set pieces. And I think the formation and even the team is going to be centered around the aerial threat of Czechia and how they are in set pieces.
So with you saying that, you foresee changes in that, whether it's going to be a back five, back three, or back four, you foresee changes happening in that centre-back pairing, or in that back four, or in the back five?
I think it's going to tweak it slightly because, we have to attack. I think that's the one thing that we didn't do well against Mexico. And that back five, when you look at how it was set up on Thursday against Mexico, is that it should have allowed for the fullbacks in Modiba and Mudau to push forward, but it's something that they didn't do well. And I think Bruce might even be tempted to start with a Kabini at left back in terms of that physical presence and that aerial strength that he brings that Modiba doesn't have. So there is going to be a slight tweak in terms of our team to anticipate that physical and aerial challenge that's going to come from Mexico. But I think from Czechia. But I think what's going to be key also is that and it's something that we did wrong against Mexico, is to focus too much on what they're going to do and then do very little in terms of what we needed to do. And I think the focus, if we sort of make up for that physical and aerial strength that they have, we need to also ensure that we bring lots of speed because that's something that we've done so well. And it troubles most of our opponents when we use our width with the likes of Apolis, Maseko, and even Moremi, Rele, to ensure that we really run at them, because that's something that the Czechia is uncomfortable with.
You're speaking about height and the importance thereof and physicality. I know you mentioned Kabini, but if we move to midfield, obviously Setoli sits this one out, given his red card, alongside Timbazwane. Do you foresee Mbata coming straight in as a direct replacement, or will he stick to his two midfield pivot and perhaps play someone else in that number 10 role?
I think if he uses a flat four, which I anticipate for this game, then Mbata is great in terms of bringing that physicality and aerial strength, because Tebogo already does quite a lot of legwork in terms of covering for the defense. And if you add a Mbata there, then that sort of strengthens our defensive unit, which would also give an opportunity to either a Rele or Jaden to play more offensively and bring us that creativity that the team solely lacked when we faced Mexico.
And Evidence Mahopa, you reckon is a starting position for him, given his height?
Bruce will not compromise on Foster. Given, especially also with how things went out in that game against Mexico, I think there are a number of players who need to show up and show their worth. And I think this is going to be an opportunity for Foster to sort of reclaim some of that sort of quality and what he brings to the team. I think Evident, if he comes on, is someone who probably will come on from the bench. Bruce is unlikely to tweak it that much because, yes, the team that he put out was very defensive, but the one positive was that he played two strikers. I mean, which is something that he hadn't done in a very long time. And I don't think he's going to play two strikers here. He's probably going to bring in a Forster in terms of just hold up play and creating space for our attackers.
Because if I think about it, as far as Lyle Foster is concerned, that game against Mexico in particular, it's probably something that he needed to get off of his shoulder. Even the match before then, where it was the warm-up game, before we left for Mexico, we missed the penalty. And you rightly said last week as we chatted that he seems to be going through a patch of being underconfident, not having that full confidence as strikers usually need. And if he were to start again against Czechia, hopefully goals is the best currency for confidence. Am I right, Njabulo?
Yeah, I mean, he needs that. Bafana needs that. And I think the conditions around this, even in terms of how Czechia plays, allows the Foster to sort of bring the best out of him, because the team needs him, and he needs to keep firing, because, I mean, in the unit that we have, he's one of our most lethal attackers that we have. I mean, we tend to forget that. I mean, even in the World Cup qualifiers and the AFCONs, that he's someone who's been able to find the net a bit more consistently than most. And I think this game is a good pick-me-up from him. It's not going to be as emotionally tough and draining as Mexico, because, I mean, I think one of the challenges was that game was just the stage. I mean, opening game against the host with so many people watching it, the team froze. And this one, I mean, the expectations are quite low. They've been ridiculed in their own country, and even pundits from all over the world who've talked about how bad they've been. So they've got plenty of motivation to rise from essentially the mediocrity that they produced in Thursday to show their real worth and what they produced. I mean, they're playing in a field where Cape Verde held the former world champions earlier this week in Spain. And when you look at how the African teams like Morocco, Egypt, and even Senegal, even though they lost, but when you look at the fight and the character they displayed, that is something that Bafana sorely lacked. And I think that's something that they're going to produce this time around.
You had the chance to visit Bafana training sessions as well this past couple of days. What's the one thing that kind of stood out for you leading into this particular match tomorrow evening?
I think it's the attitude. On Friday, the day after the game, they were very, like, you could see that they took a punch and they were reeling from that, and that's why Bruce was so animated and demanding in terms of the training session. But the sessions I've seen since then, they've chased her up and like they've raised their heads. And you can see the confidence that they're playing with. And there's a strong desire to do well. And one of the things, even when we talked with Utapelo Maseko and Ricardo Gos, the things that they consistently said was that they want to make South Africa proud. And it's acknowledging the shortcomings of what they did wrong and pushing to ensure that they do better this time around. And I like that the players have sort of taken responsibility for what they did, because yes, the formation and tactics have come into question, but essentially we lost because of the attitude of the players and the lack of fight and character. And they, Maseko and Gossi saying that they're the ones who put the team here and they're the ones who should take the team out of this position.
One player that I'm particularly excited to see tomorrow evening in this game is Osman Apollos. I felt as though he was obviously released a bit later on in that game against Mexico, and, we suffered the consequences of, relinquishing our attacking power for more of a defensive approach. But heading into this game, all those years ago, we've only played one match against Czech Republic, and that was a 2-2 draw in a FIFA Confederations Cup. And lo and behold, the likes of Helman Makalele scored the second equalizing goal. And I feel as though coming into this game, Osman, like he has always done in a Bafana shirt, for every, I guess, lack of a better performance that he's given in that Bafana shirt. He somehow just always comes back and reminds you as to why Bruce has always backed him and why his name has always been the first on the team sheet apart from last week. And I'm pretty sure that he's going to grab this opportunity to showcase Bruce, because he has that about him, where, especially obviously in this past season, where he's more than likely to either pip his teammate really to PSL Player of the Season. But I'm just so gobsmacked and surprised that Hugo Bruce left him out of that starting 11, given what he can do.
Yeah, that team was bad on so many levels. I mean, it's I think for me the biggest issue was just the sheer lack of creativity. Because when you look at when we attacked Mexico, you could see that, like with speed and the playmaker, this team could have hurt Mexico and they could have done well. And I think that is something that the technical team and analysts have been hard at work on, in terms of how do we bring in that creativity and an attacking spark that we have. And when you look at everyone of the more forward minded players that we have, Apollos is head and shoulders above the rest. He's had an incredible season at Orlando Pirates that at times we even forget that this was his first season at the club, because he joined them earlier from Polokwane City, to be able to go from a team that essentially is trying to survive and finish in the top 8 to lead a Pirates team to break their long wait for a championship. I mean, ending a 14-year drought is incredible. And whenever he's been on the pitch for Bafana, he does something. If it's not scoring, he's creating or being involved in an attacking threat. And that's something that we need. I mean, also, I think just his heart. I mean, Apollos is someone who is one of the hardest workers in the team. He never gives up. No matter how many chances he misses or certain things don't go as well, he never drops his head. He keeps at it, and has produced big performances for club and country when they desperately needed him to do so. And I think that the stage is set for an Apollos special on Thursday.
The power of football, especially the men's FIFA World Cup, is both a gift and a curse to the beautiful game and those who love it. No sporting event captures the world's imagination like the global showpiece that's played every 4 years for now. That's the introduction to Njabulo's, Sunday column. FIFA President Martino makes Sepp Blatter look like a Boy Scout. And the reason why I just started with that opening paragraph, and you can go read the rest of the column on there. Now that you're in Atlanta, now that you've been a couple of days there, you sort of gotten a feel of this World Cup. And just in a short couple of words, now that you're in the States, does it feel like a soccer World Cup? We know America is known for NBA, for the NFL, and other sports, but football has always somehow, or soccer for a better term, has always somehow been in the periphery.
It's the nature of most tournaments, in that before there's quite a lot of talks and conversations in and around the game, but when it starts, I mean, you can see and I think America has embraced it. I mean, given everything around this World Cup in terms of just how expensive the tickets are and how polarizing it's been in terms of who's let in and not. I mean, Senegal, they could not have any fans from Senegal. Yeah. They relied on the diaspora living in the States. The Cape Verde goalkeeper who had a blinder. I mean, for me, that draw against Spain is one of the best results in the history of the tournament. His mother could not be there because of the high amount of money they have to pay in terms of applying for a visa that just could not raise. So those challenges, I think the issue of access is going to be a stain on this World Cup and FIFA in terms of them allowing this nonsense to happen. But once the tournament started, I mean, we've seen, I think for me, one of the most beautiful stories around this is how Kansas has adopted Algeria. I mean, so many people in Lawrence, where Algeria team is based, have really taken this team in. I mean, there was this gigantic Algerian flag that they raised. Students who sort of sang the Algerian national anthem with the choir that they have, and just it's such a match made in heaven, that something that would not have happened if it wasn't for this World Cup. To see this town taking on this Algerian team that their paths would not have crossed if it wasn't for the World Cup. And that's just the beauty of the beautiful game in this tournament, in terms of bringing people closer together and seeing remarkable human stories that come out from this, which is why it's said that with all its power to unite and just bring us this warmth of positivity for a month, that if possible we could just bottle it and just take whenever this world becomes a mess that it is. It's a pity that with everything that the World Cup stands for, America has been allowed to do what it has done in terms of how people come in and out of the country. And I think it's something that FIFA will never recover from, and it's a stain that will always be in them, in terms of how they've lost control of their tournament, and how they sold out the soul, essentially, of the game for a quick buck. I mean, just to show how bizarre things have been, Sepp Blatter has become the voice of reason in this. I mean, he insisted that when you look at the powers that FIFA has, no host association should ever deny fans to be able to come in and out, and no host nation should ever deny a referee and get to a point where even one of those teams is told that, like with Iran, that they can't be based in the US and now have to play all of their group stage in the US, but immediately fly back to Mexico where they are based. I mean, it's unheard of. It's ridiculous. And Infantino's reign has sort of allowed that to happen, which for me has put in a damper on this tournament.
Now we have hypocrites in this space as well, in a sense of, if we look where the tournament was 4 years ago in Qatar, and themselves, came under scrutiny for many things because of systems that was placed on that particular country and the way they wanted to run the thing. But the difference between the two nations is that, or at least between America and Qatar, or the way they're running their particular tournament, we also have to realize that Canada and Mexico, although they're co-hosting, they have their own set of rules as to how fans enter and leave and everything else that comes with it. When you compare Qatar and the US as to how they're going about this World Cup, it's very, very sad to see. And it's very more so just to see these kinds of things happening in a world where, as Njabulo mentioned so beautifully, a sport that brings people together. But in this case, unfortunately, it's dividing many opinions as well, where a state like America can do such things to innocent people. The Iranian thing case is probably the one that, if I look at it, hurts the most, because when I saw the coach's quotes on how he felt about his team immediately after full-time whistle, they were guided back to the airport and had to fly back immediately after the game, which is ridiculous.
It's crazy, and for me that's also one of the challenges with the media in general, was just the hypocrisy. I mean, when you go back from 2010, when you look at the stories that were written in and around the 2010, there were, I mean, at some point England was promoting step-proof vests, and because of just how the crime is going to be here. Before the team had even arrived, their things were stolen.
Yeah.
When they stole their boots and everything else, and there's some, and you look at also in terms of Qatar and Russia, in terms of accusation of human rights violations, which were valid, and now it's in a country with you can't even keep up with which war they are fighting, because they've just been at it. And that has never been something that has consistently been pointed out, in terms of, if Qatar and Russia were bad places in terms of human rights violation, then what about a country engaging in so many consistent and continuous wars? I think this World Cup, it's not just FIFA who've let down the beautiful game. I think media at some point have also let down the beautiful game, in terms of how poorly and how very little they've held back, they've held accountable the American regime in terms of how they've operated in and around hosting of this World Cup.
Yeah, it's a World Cup that's going to go down steeped in history for things outside of the game, which is the unfortunate case.
I mean, it's a World Cup. It's a World Cup where Messi is going to break the record as the all-time top goal scorer. And it's a World Cup where a young Cabo Verde held the mighty Spain. And it's a World Cup with 10 African nations for the first time in the history of the tournament. There's so many beautiful stories around this World Cup that I think, regardless of the magic and just the brilliance that's going to be on display on the pitch, it will forever be known as the World Cup that was an exclusive thing, exclusive in terms of who was allowed to be in and out of the country, exclusive in terms of the ridiculous prizes that fans have had to pay to watch the spectacle. And I think it's something that FIFA needs to seriously look at themselves in the mirror and see, which I don't have hope that they're going to do, but reflect, because what America has done, and for me, that's the worry with this, is that this is the first time in a long time that the country that's hosting the World Cup does not need FIFA more than FIFA needs it. I mean, in 2010, Bafana in South Africa would do anything that FIFA demanded because of how much we wanted to host the event. Same with Russia in terms of the shenanigans that they were doing, and same with Qatar in terms of wanting, using sports to wash some of their ugly sides of their regime. Now we are in America, which they do not. They don't care. So there isn't even a sport washing attempt. They've showing the world who they are, and they're unashamed of that. But they've got the money that FIFA wants. And when you look at the 48 teams, the World Cup is the future of the World Cup is going to be on co-hosting or going to very rich countries. I mean, the next one is going to be co-hosted by like 5 or 6 countries. And then the following one after that is going to Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, they're also another deplorable regime. When you look at what America has been allowed to sort of get away with, it's something that they could also see and try and test, because also Saudi does not necessarily need FIFA more than FIFA needs them, because they've got the money and they've invested in so many other avenues of sport to give a certain picture of their regime that if they wanted to, they could sort of adopt a similar mindset in terms of certain things and just be headstrong that we're not doing either take this or leave it. And that's the worry of this World Cup, is that it's the legacy of FIFA losing control of their tournament and what the consequences of that mean for future World Cups.
And on that beautiful note, Njabulo, I want to thank you very much for your time as always. I'm not sure what the next couple of hours are looking like. Maybe you can brief us quickly.
It's going to be a hectic day. There's this morning there's an event that has George Ware and some TikTok people. It's going to be talking about the campaign of fighting against hate speech online. We've seen an increase in terms of how social media has been a cesspool for abuse, some unsavory remarks, and some of them racist remarks that have affected many players. So this is part of a campaign to sort of address the what is happening, and yeah. So there's that, and then after that it's Bafana's press conference, Czech's press conference, and then the two teams are gonna get a feel of the stadium at Atlanta before the big game tomorrow.
Bring the W tomorrow night, right?
No, it has to. We've suffered enough.
Cheers, everyone. We'll be back on Friday afternoon.